And now it's time for Guerilla, a Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
Ready, steady. Well, welcome to what is now a very wet Wellington, where players been abandoned for the day. But that's not to say we didn't get in 65 very interesting overs today. And I'm very pleased to say that back with us to discuss what's happened today is the Wizard of the Wirral, Mr. Al Hotchkiss. Welcome, Al.
Hi, Jess. Thanks for having me back.
And, you know, you've had some practice at this now. And given that not a lot of wickets have fallen, we can probably do the summary in less than a minute today. So you'd like to do that?
I will give it my best. So start the clock. Let's talk about ancient history and modern history. Ancient history is the last 49 captains who have won the toss have bowled first at this particular pitch. And that's exactly what Saudi did. And within 7 overs, we had our next piece of ancient history, which is green surfaces are good for seam bowlers, with Crawley, Pope, and Duckett all back in the pavilion, score for 21 for 3. Enter Joe Root, enter Harry Brook. Root survives a review on his first ball, and from that moment on, from 7 overs in to the end of play, 294 runs for no wickets. And that is current English cricket modern history right there. Joe Root hits his 100 and 101st run off the very last ball of the day. But the day really belongs to Harry Brook, who has played magnificently to all parts of the ground. He scored more runs than any other player in 9 innings. You know, there is all sorts of history which is at his fingertips. But this has been a day where the early initiative has been wrenched back by the modern thinking and the modern cricket initiative of England cricket. 315 for 3 is your score, with losing an hour's play, 65 overs bowled at the end of day 1.
And Harry Brook is on 184 not out from 169 deliveries. His current test average is 100.88. Joe Root's test average currently is a mere 49.77. It's amazing. Who would have guessed that 6 months ago?
It's also reflective of their scoring rates as well. Root accelerated from 83 to 100 and played really well. I believe he played well by trying to play a bit more down the ground. He was playing very square of the wicket on both sides. But Harry Brook has played 270 degrees of a 360-degree wagon wheel. I'm sure he's making Neil Wagner rethink all of his life options. Because I think Harry Brook knows where Neil Wagner's going to bowl it before Neil Wagner does.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. After Wagner got carted for a heap of runs in the previous Test match, he's now bowled 17 overs and gone for 101 runs, whereas Southey's bowled the same number of overs and gone for 48. What's Wagner doing that Southey's not doing?
Neil Wagner's made his Test reputation on bowling on being a consumer of overs. He bowls short. He's bowled short in all sorts of conditions all the way across the world. He's abrasive in terms of his style of bowling, and I don't mean that about him as a human being, but he's there to confront the batsman, and he's there to make it awkward. And Harry Brook has acted like he's a cheat code for all of that. Maybe he's lost a kilometre or 2 of pace, but certainly there's been an exposure to the world that Neil Wagner might be a good 3rd or 4th choice bowler, but he is nowhere near frontline bowler material.
Yeah.
New Zealand have obviously made a conscious choice about not picking Trent Bolt. I believe in order to preserve a central contract, you've got to go with the New Zealand board with regards to that. But yeah, it's been startling about what England have done to him in the last 2 Test matches.
Yeah, well, if I was a New Zealander, I would have no doubt I would be finding it extraordinarily painful dealing with this. Maybe we'll get Kiwi Kelly on to talk about that at some stage. So let's go back to the beginning of the day. That first 6.4 overs was full of promise for New Zealand. Zach Crawley, he was caught Blundell, bowled Henry for 2.
Got a good one.
Yep.
Got a good one. You know, the ball was moving, and Henry wasn't moving the ball a lot, but moving it just enough. If you move the ball too much, it misses the outside edge.
Yep.
And Crawley could go back. If you can hold your head up high after making 2, then you can do that as an opening batsman sometimes, because you can turn around and go, I've done well to nick that. It was a featherlight nick. It wasn't an expansive drive. He was playing down the line of the ball in relation to where it pitched. Sometimes you just get good ones, but if your place is already under scrutiny, sometimes you can't afford to get good ones, and that might be the problem.
Yeah, and Ben Duckett, he just made 9 runs, caught Bracewell both Southey.
A really good catch by Bracewell. Duckett didn't look comfortable, same way that Crawley didn't look comfortable, same way that Pope didn't look comfortable. Southey would have been incredibly happy at the end of 7 overs, because you've got England right where you want them. You've got 21 for 3 on a pitch that will probably never be as bowler friendly as it is in that first session of the first day.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Crawley and Duckett fell to balls that might have got them out in any style of cricket, be baseball or not.
Yeah.
Ollie Pope.
You could argue that Duckett was playing a little bit too far away from his body, but that's being hypercritical.
Ollie Pope was looking to turn it, and therefore had less bat face and caught at the edge and went to slip. So that possibly is an injudicious Test cricket shot early in one's innings.
What Pope had tried to do from ball 1 was to come down the pitch, be aggressive, to try and reduce the effect of the swing and the seam movement, and was hoisted by his own petard, really.
Yeah. By
trying to do that. Again, the ball moves ever so slightly from Henry. It takes the edge, it gets caught at slip. Bracewell takes 2 catches in those first 3 wickets. It would be, it would be exactly the same type of opening that England fans would have wanted to have seen with Broad and Anderson bowling. It was really good seam bowling first up.
Yeah. And then Brooke. What did Brooke do? Yeah. What did he do to change the whole thing?
He it wasn't reckless, but it was ruthless. And slowly but surely, the rate at which he was scoring, he's effectively scored a run a ball for the entirety of his innings. There have been times where he dipped slightly below that, but at the moment he's slightly above it. He started by putting bad balls away, and then he started putting half bad balls away, and then started putting good balls away.
Yeah.
And this sort of allied with maybe a lack of depth in the New Zealand bowling attack. When Southey has wanted to try and control the run rate, he's gone to Mitchell rather than Wagner.
Yes.
Now that as a choice of captain probably tells you everything that you need to know about the state of the bowling attack.
Yep.
He's not really gone to Bracewell at all, for a variety of reasons. We jokingly in the session just before lunch called Bracewell's first over the Jack Leach Memorial over, because it was the last over. It was the last over before lunch, and it's like you're just trying to get an over in before time, which probably doesn't strike well for Bracewell's confidence.
Yep.
But yeah, it's been. It was interesting that with the team selection that they brought Will Young in, I think to take pressure off Kane Williamson and have Kane come in at 4 rather than 3.
Yep,
but
that makes sense.
They're whichever way you want to slice it, whether it's Trent Bolt or somebody else, they're a bowler light.
Yes. Yeah. And Bracewell still only bowled 7 overs out of 65 today. And 33 runs. Looked pedestrian, if anything.
There was some in that first over. There were some balls that really turned, and another captain might have turned around and said, "Well, hang on, there might be something here." That 7 overs doesn't even point to the idea of giving somebody a spell.
No, that's right. And now, talk to me about Joe Root. Well, I'll tell you what I think about Joe Root. I was really concerned about Joe Root during the last Test match because I thought he was trying to play a game that doesn't bring out his best. When I came on commentary a bit after lunch, there were a couple of people complaining that Joe Root had not scored enough runs fast enough. That, I don't know, he was something like 30 off 90 balls, that sort of thing. And I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, Joe Root doesn't need to score any runs. All he needs to do is be there, and runs will come. And for me, that's what's happened. He's been there for 182 deliveries. He's got 101. That's the Joe Root I know. I don't recall a single chance from him. I think it was Brooke who was dropped by Wagner, wasn't it?
No, there was. Not a drop doesn't come to mind, but it could be
a return caught and bowled. It was very tough.
Oh no, it dropped just short of.
Oh, did it? Oh well, it wasn't even a drop. Well, I mean, Root was just beautiful to watch, and it wasn't the fast bish bash bosh that Brooke gives us and some of the other people playing baseball, if you like, but it's the Root that I love to watch. And I feel like he's back where he should be.
To go back to how we described the day, he went back into his ancient history in order to be able to write a little bit more of his modern history.
Absolutely.
And you're coming in at 21 for 3. You play the innings that if you ask Stokes about the role he wants Joe Root to play, that's it.
Absolutely.
Because any number you want, before T for 4 is obviously worse. I think we have this misconception about what baseball is. Baseball is a positive mindset about exerting pressure on your opponent, and England had to take New Zealand's best punches in that first hour.
Yep.
He is obviously deferred to Brooke at stages. There's a sense of context in all of this, which is that Root hasn't managed to turn around and to be expansive for his own play. He's looked to move the strike around in order to really get Brooke back on strike.
Yes.
I think people who might be complaining that Root wasn't scoring quickly enough probably need to go back to think about what English cricket has been like for a really long time. And that
yes.
by any standard of Test cricket, if you turn around and offered a batsman any historically great top and middle order batsmen, 100 off 180 balls, they bite your armour.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worth noting that Root now has 29 Test centuries, which is exactly the same as Bradman. Has taken 128 Test matches, whereas Bradman, I think, took something like 52 Test matches. But nonetheless,
Bradman will remain a statistical anomaly.
absolutely.
But one of the things, it's when you're trying to put things in some sort of context about what people are doing and how they're doing it. Two of the best batsmen in the world at the moment are Steve Smith and Marcus Labuschagne. Whatever's going on in India is going on in India, and that has humbled that environment has humbled batsmen from all over the world. They are two batsmen who seem to go out of their way from looking from the outside in to make cricket unnecessarily more complicated than it needs to be.
Yes, I know what you mean.
And there is a rugged simplicity in Harry Brook's game, which is really quite refreshing. It might be his undoing at certain points in time, but there are historical numbers that we thought would never be challenged. Something to look at is that this is Harry Brook's 9th Test innings. The record to get to 1,000 runs is 12.
Yep.
And the list of people who were in that first page of fewest innings to get to 1,000 runs is littered full of the world's greats.
Yes.
Now I'm not gonna anoint Harry Brook, but he's doing something which is historically potentially unprecedented, which is exciting to see when it happens.
Absolutely.
And for you don't have to be an England fan to turn around and to go, well, I'd quite like to see that happen for as long as it's possible for him to do it.
Yes. Although it must be said that I think as an England fan, you will be fairly happy with the outcome today.
Well, if there's an awful lot of muscle memory that as a fan at 21-3, you're turning around and going, at what point is Anderson and Broad going to be bowling today?
Yeah.
And that's in years gone by, in eras gone by, that's a serious possibility.
Yeah.
But there's, if you take Bazball to be the mentality of how do we exert the maximum amount of pressure on our opponent and to make it as uncomfortable for them as possible, this might be the best day of Bazball that there's been since they took over. Yeah,
I think that's quite possibly. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of good days, haven't there? But
no, but to turn around, to move it, and to turn it. I know there was a couple of days in the previous summer, but that was it was a fabulous performance by Root and Stokes. Stokes hasn't done the damn thing. Even called the toss wrong. By Root and by Brook. It feels a shame that we've been robbed of an hour. I know we'll get that time back, I hope, over the course of the next few days. But just interesting to see because it's going to be a friendlier pitch to bat on tomorrow.
Yes.
The green's slowly disappearing.
The forecast for tomorrow is not dissimilar to today. I think we're likely to see some rain later in the day tomorrow as well. So the final 3 days at this stage of the forecast is quite good. So we still should get a full match, I think. Just a couple of things. My Gurilla of the day today is actually Gary Naylor. For just
a wise choice.
Being Gary and taking very, very well being contradicted. He stated without equivocation that Jeff Boycott scored a century in the first Gillette Cup final. unfortunate for him, I was on air with him and I happened to be there, and he didn't even play in that thing, and so I contradicted him. Gary didn't bat an eyelid, carried on and said, well, that's the good thing about being on Guerilla Cricket. If we get something wrong, somebody's going to correct us pretty soon. So it's a fact until it's not a fact. I thought that's as bad as Gary as it gets.
That is a summary of modern journalism right there.
Yeah,
it's a fact until it's not a fact.
Yeah.
No, there are just simply facts.
And my tweeter of the day, well, for many reasons, quite apart from keeping us all amused, is Joe Grover, because he just keeps on keeping on, and I think that it's hard to pick out a particular one, but I thought this one in relation to Gary was, I'm scared of going to sleep after kipping off with Gary making a point and waking up 4 hours later with him still making the exact same point. So it all sort of fits together nicely.
The thing to remember, Jay, is that Gary's not afraid to make the same point more than once. So,
mind you, most of us aren't, but Gary does it with regularity.
Yeah, we point it out rather than point it out of ourselves. We've only got about 6 or 7 things that we all say, so it's just a matter of recycling them in some sort of order to be able to try and keep ourselves amused and awake.
Well, thank you very much, Al. Before we go, I'd just like to draw your attention to the fact that it's our patrons who keep us going. And if you'd like to support us, please go to patreon.com/Gurilla Cricket. We'd love it if you could like this podcast, share it as widely as possible, and subscribe to the Guerilla Cricket YouTube channel, which you do just by clicking the button below. At the end of the day, then, we have a situation of England after 65 overs, a 315 for 3. And tomorrow promises more of the same, I suspect. Thank you so much, Al. So.
My pleasure, Jez. Always good to speak to you.
Okay. Thanks, mate. Take care.
And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know